Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Becoming Women podcast with me, your host, Ella Sims, where each week I speak with inspiring women about their teenage years. If this is your first time listening, a very warm welcome to you, and if you're a regular listener, then thank you. My mission with this podcast is to support teenage girls as they navigate the ups and downs of growing up. In each episode, I talk with grown women about their individual journeys as a teenager, the highs and lows, any challenges they may have faced, and what advice they would share with their younger self to help reassure you that you are not alone and those tricky teenage years will pass. This week's episode, I'm with Sarah Tebb. Sarah is a freelance social media manager by day and an avid bookworm all the rest of the time. She also writes for the South Coast Journal, a recently launched local magazine celebrating creativity, community and culture in the area from Arundel to Emsworth. You'll most likely find Sarah outside, preferably on the beach with a book. She also wants to use her platform to help break down the still very much taboo subject of grief and death, after losing her dad as a teenager, and more recently, one of her best friends. Hi Sarah, it's really lovely to see you today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun.
It's been really lovely to meet you, and I'm just going to flag now, we're in a really nice meeting room at Victoria Station, but they have this little dung 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 sound in the background. Yeah.
That's having a problem.
So that will be joining us on our lovely conversation today. I think it's really lovely to meet you, and I would love to hear a bit more about your childhood and your family background.
Yeah, cool. It's lovely to meet you too. This is so exciting. I loved all the questions you sent over, and because it's quite nice to have an idea of what to talk about. But family background, I had a very sort of outdoorsy, fun. I've got 3 big smelly brothers, and they made a point of they were very nice and they always included me and things like that. But I spent most of my time desperately wanting to be a boy and trying to climb as high as they could in the trees, and had lots of cuts and grazes on my legs. But we were very we love camping as a family and outdoorsy and all that sort of thing. So I basically grew up outdoors, I think, which is why that's why I love it so much now. But yeah, just fun, camping, cycling, all those sorts of things growing up, and enjoying. When we lived down the South Coast, so we spent a lot of time on the beach, swimming in the sea, just all that was just very much woven into our everyday lives, and which was really lovely.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
and
nice.
Is that something you do a lot of now?
Yes, so I've now moved back down to the South Coast, and living by the sea is just the best for me. I was living in London, and I was living in London for about nearly up to 5 years. I didn't realise how much I missed the sea, just seeing it every day, or just you live life by the tide times almost, knowing where you can walk or everything. It changes quite a lot of how you live. Now I try and spend as much time as still outside and on the beach if I can.
With a book? With
a book, yes, that's preferable. Setup is book, maybe something nice to drink, maybe a picnic. On the beach, yes, that's heaven for me. Absolutely.
And I think I know you as a little bit as a bookworm or an avid book reader.
Yes.
What was your favourite book as a young girl or as a teenager?
Oh, I think the one that really sticks out in my mind that I very much because the pages were falling out, was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. I absolutely, as I used to just read, and actually I love George's Marvellous Medicine as well. That was a really good one. And I have a very terrible story about once I tried to recreate it, and I went to my dad's shed and started to, and I was caught, and I was told off very quickly because I was mixing paint and all sorts of things that children probably shouldn't touch. But yeah, I loved Roald Dahl. I loved Harry Potter as a standard one, but Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a big one. And then teenager, I love the Mallory Black Blackman Noughts and Crosses series. Those were kind of hugely significant in my reading, and they were the sort of bridge of children to adult books, which was really nice, because when you were reading them you felt kind of a bit more grown up, which was nice. But yeah, and then it was just, I think then school takes over and you have to read all the Grapes of Wrath and Jane Austen constantly, because that's what school says. But yeah, no, Charlie and Chocolate Factory was a big one for me growing up.
Would that be your recommendation to someone listening then, or would you have a different book that if you're a young girl you have to read that?
I think you have to, because I mean I ended up doing my dissertation at university on Roald Dahl, because there is so much magic and imagination in it, and I think his writing is so important at teaching people to use your imagination. And I think, can you imagine writing that story of thinking of all those wonderful sweet names and chocolate names? And I think that's incredible, and I think it just shows you how far you can go, and as an adult you can dream like a child and create things in a childish way, but it's so important to hold on to that, and not forget, just because you're an adult it doesn't mean you can't dream and imagine and sort of enjoy the silly things. I'd also say no, I back myself. I think Charlie and Chocolate Factory is a good one for sort of younger, but then also again the Mallory Blackman series is incredible, really, and quite kind of, it's much deeper and more emotional, but I think it's quite a good staging between, I don't want to say adult books, because I don't know what is an adult book really, but I guess when maybe you're not choosing the books for yourself.
Yeah.
They're a good, young adult, isn't it? The YA kind of section of the bookshop.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on school and how that's sort of, I guess, steers you towards doing particular things. What was school life like for you?
It's funny, because when you sent me over the questions, I felt when I first sort of started thinking about them, I was worried I was getting kind of too negative on it, and I think I don't have strong emotions about school. There are parts that I found immensely frustrating. I went to a very, very high achieving, highly academic, private, all-girls school that was quite kind of ambitious and pushed you and kind of empowering, and some parts of it were great, but there was still a lot of kind of favouritism, and there's still a lot of, if you're not going to Oxbridge, you sort of got ignored, and I hated that. I thought it was so unfair, but also just that there was only one message of, I mean, I didn't want to go to Oxford or Cambridge. I ended up going to Exeter, which is a fabulous university as well. But there was this really strange, sort of quite traditional message that Oxbridge is sort of the best, and then everything else below it isn't, which I thought was crazy. I think it still is crazy today. And there are so many of us girls that went on to amazing universities, but were made to sort of feel slightly left out because we weren't part of that group. So things like that really frustrate me, and they still frustrate me today. But then I also had a great time. I had like kind of great friends, and I loved mucking around in the drama studio. I did a lot of mucking around in the drama studio. Yeah, I love drama and English. They were my sort of absolute favourites, and especially sort of towards sixth form, and then you could choose, and GCSE and sixth form, where you could choose your subjects. It was English, drama, history all the time. And I mean, I liked school for some parts, but I don't know, I think now as an adult looking back, and I've had time, and it's always hindsight, isn't it? There's just parts that just, huge frustrations, and there's this big message on you can go out and you can achieve everything, but they kind of didn't tell you how to do it. They just got you to write a really great UCAS application and get those unconditional offers and get into universities, and it just felt like there was a very, very one-track mind of, but you're going to go to university and then you'll be taught how to be an adult, sort of thing. So there was a lot of pressure, and I enjoyed it and I loved university, but I sometimes think did I need to go? I don't know. I just think that no one ever questions it because that's what everyone's doing and that's what you're told to do. So yeah, I just find that quite frustrating looking back on it, really.
And you say that it's a case of getting the qualifications, doing the applications, going to university. What do you think that you would have benefited from to also be taught at school, as well as English and drama, that the life skills?
Life skills, just general life skills. I mean, what's a profit and loss sheet? I mean, pensions, all these things that like council tax, like when you first go to university, and in second and third year I lived with friends, and it's silly things, but they are part of kind of adult admin in terms of setting up a direct debit for your gas bills or your electricity or switching provider or whatever it is. These things become part of your life so quickly once you've left school and you're sort of being independent, trying to be independent, but you're still ringing up your mum. So this thing called British Gas is trying to get money off me, and we're not sure what we've paid and what we have. And I think that education is hugely important, but I think that life skills education should be pushed so much more. Mortgages, even like money management, I think, because again, you suddenly go to university and you're given loads of cash and a student overdraft, and you're like, oh, okay, it all seems really exciting, and I want to buy a beer at the bar, and I think so many people get into trouble because it is exciting and it's overwhelming, and you also think, oh, I'm 18 now, I should know. But you don't. You just really, really don't. And I just think that I just think there is so much more we can do around sort of life education. And my school kind of touched on it. We had, in sixth form, we would sort of taught how to change a tyre. And it's, I don't even remember now how to do that. And thank God for brothers, really. But yeah, it was sort of a token effort, but it was in groups of, say, I kind of like 10, I went to quite a small school, but we'd all stand around and we'd actually stand there chatting because we weren't interested. And this kind of bloke had come in and was trying to teach us, but you're sort of 17 and you don't really care. That's half the trouble as well. But I don't know, I just think there are definitely things like KPIs, and I remember when I got my first sort of proper job as an adult, and some of the jargon and silly things that said, and I had to go and Google it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know, sometimes I feel like I just wish I'd been given a bit of a heads up as to what happens once you leave school. That would be nice to know. That would be good information to have.
And you were talking about when a man comes in and shows you how to change a tyre and you're chatting with friends. What was your friendship circle like?
Really nice. I was quite lucky in that I danced, I did ballet and tap and modern growing up all through my childhood as well. And the girls I met from there, I ended up moving schools in year 7 because I was bullied, and to a different school in year 8. And the school I kind of said to my parents, I was like, I'd like to go to this school because I have some friends here, because it's the people I did dancing with. So that was quite nice, because moving school is always tricky, but I had friends that I could sit with and that sort of thing, kind of this scary chapter, and I had some friends. But yeah, really nice. I mean, lots of sleepovers on the good old days, and yeah, like really nice. And then sort of like the drama girls, and as we were in sixth form, and where we just sort of, yeah, as I said, did a lot of mucking about, skipping other classes, which I don't recommend. But yeah, no, I really nice, and I think there was a sort of a nice community at school, and there wasn't that many of us, so it wasn't kind of hard. You weren't really left out, because school was quite good at kind of getting everyone together, and you knew everyone anyway, and you had a chance to chat with lots of people. But yeah, no, friends wise, really nice, and still good friends kind of with some now, and have like regular meetups with people from school. It's kind of hard, I think, when you go to university, there's always that lull where you're meeting lots of more exciting people, and then you sort of come back, and then, I mean, technology has enabled a lot of to revive a lot of friendships, which is really, really nice. Because it's quite easy to sort of text someone and just say, hey, do you fancy a catch up? But what's quite amazing is how many people end up in London after university. That was quite nice, because then it was like, oh, we're kind of back in the same place again, which is kind of back what like school is, isn't it? You kind of see everyone every day without any effort. But yeah, no, I had a really nice time friends-wise with at school. And yeah, just that we all sort of ticked along nicely. Had a few kind of butting heads, which is, I think, inevitable with hormonal teenagers. Yeah. Especially all girls in the classroom together. It's gonna happen. But yeah, it was day-to-day very kind of happy and fun with everyone.
And you mentioned that you moved schools because you were bullied in year 7. Was it quite bad? And then you really pleased that, was it you that asked your parents, this is happening, would it be possible to move schools? How did that happen?
So I the good old days of the yellow pages, I went and got the yellow pages and circled the school and left it on my parents' bed. That was my message of, I would like to move schools now. Funny it being a podcast because it's voices. So I was bullied because I have a squeaky voice. 11, 12-year-olds are not that imaginative, I don't think. I speak in a certain way, and I was bullied for that. It was a very sort of bizarre thing that happened. I think it was a classic. I went to their school, made some friends, sort of fell in with these 2 girls, and it kind of became the awkward threesome thing where there was a bit of kind of the sort of chatting behind backs, and for whatever reason they decided they wanted to kind of pick on me. They sort of used to steal my exercise books, and then I had the awkward, Sarah, why don't you have your German exercise book? And I just say, I'm really sorry, I just don't know where it is, I think someone's taken it. And then the teacher's like, well, don't be so silly, and you're like, and then am I being crazy sort of thing, am I making this up? And lots of the sort of the sort of mean girls element of kind of phoning up is the good old days of the landline, phoning up and people getting you to say silly things or whatever, and things like that. And I mean, it wasn't really, really awful. I don't know why the voice thing was the thing, but they just said I sounded funny and they thought it was silly, and they used to call me horrible names.
So cruel. Just picking up on one thing and then just going with it.
Yeah, and for a while afterwards, especially because I love drama, I then used to overthink it, and I thought, oh, okay, should I not? And someone who loves talking, it was almost sort of a dagger in the heart of, okay, so do I need to do something about this? You can't change your voice. It's not the thing that you can go out and get a new one. But yeah, I just did a lot of crying, I think, and my parents realised very, very quickly that I wasn't happy. Because I stopped talking. It's my biggest tell, I think, is when I'm not very happy, I kind of actually go quiet for once. But yeah, I got the yellow pages, and I said I just really want to go to this school. I have friends there, and my parents just picked up the phone and very, very lovingly just said, it's okay, we'll do something about it. So yeah, but it's hard, like when you're 12 and you just want to have friends and get on, and it's quite a lot of kind of stress, I think, for a 12-year-old to go through. But we made it. We're here, we're all right.
Yeah, sounds like you did, and you made friendships for life.
Yes.
Which is brilliant, and it's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I know, having the conversations that we've had before meeting today, you lost your dad when you were 15.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
The worst. It's hard. I mean, losing someone, losing a parent, anything like that is crazy hard. As a 15-year-old, I just didn't really know what I was experiencing. I think it's the biggest life lesson you're taught, and it's a horrible life lesson. But it happens. I'm lucky that my family was super strong about it, and Mum was always, let's talk about it, and kind of like, tell me how you're feeling, and was really good at kind of creating this a semblance of normality, and was Mum and Dad and things like that. But I was just heartbroken. I just didn't get it. I was like, how has this happened? Like, no, this is not right. This is not how it's meant to be. And I went through a real kind of angry patch as well so I sometimes would look at like my grandparents and be like, but you're old, like it's supposed to be that way around, and all those things, and you thought like, and then I'm the most horrible person ever because I just thought that. But this is it, this is the roller coaster of emotions, and when you're hormonal and you're going through puberty, it's kind of fully exacerbated to the point where you just don't really know what's happening. And school my dad passed away May 2006, and it was the day before we went to half term, and then it was our mock GCSE, so I was in year 10. I didn't do very many of those in the end, but it was weird because it was that last Friday, and then we had a week off anyway, which you sort of get with compassionate leave and all those sorts of things, and no one expected me to be in school. But it was strange because I was in this sort of weird limbo of, I think my family's going through all this pain, I'm going through all this pain, but I was supposed to be studying, and it was bizarre because I was like, oh, do I need to? Should I? I don't really want to. And it was whilst dealing with the kind of pain of not having my dad, I was also worrying about my GCSEs. And I think that's what was it's that conflict of, after that, school wasn't relevant for me in a way. I checked out in a big way. I didn't push myself that much. I was lucky that I still achieved good grades. But for a good sort of year, I was just sat at school, just questioning it. Why am I here? Why am I stressed about simultaneous equations? Why am I panicking about what I'm going to get on a paper when every time I go home, Dad's not there anymore? And it's like I said earlier, it's a real roller coaster of emotions, and I mean it's hard anyway. But excuse me. As a 15-year-old, it opens you up to kind of how cruel life is, and I very much, the day that Dad died, that was at the end of my childhood. I realised that we're not invincible. All those things that you don't really want kids to learn, teenagers to learn, you want them to feel like they can go out and do anything. I realised that's actually not how life works. Which is it's sad, but that's life. But yeah, I mean, it was super difficult, and having a big family helped, and a family that would always just talk about it anyway, and talking is naturally how I process. But it's been my saving grace, and I always really talk openly about it, and that's where, when you asked me if I was happy to talk about it, I was absolutely, because it needs to be talked about more. It needs to be normalised, because we all go through it at some stage. And I just kind of want to. I do want to raise awareness around it, especially for young people, where there is so much else. Like I said earlier, it's like I was worrying about studying, but I was also worrying about what I was going to wear to his funeral. I mean, that's kind of hard for anyone to get their head around, and I think it's about kind of the process and telling people to take their time with it, because it's kind of the worst thing you really have to go through. But yeah, it was hard, and it still is to this day. But I know I'm okay, and it just pushes you harder towards living and trying to enjoy it the best you can, sort of thing. So
it sounds like you had a really supportive family, which is amazing. Was there anything day to day that you found gave you just a bit more comfort or sense of, I guess, new normality?
Yeah, I think Mum was good at that and sort of saying, she said to me, she's like, you don't have to worry about the studying, but she encouraged me to do so because I would have to go back to school at some point, and actually school in a way was a saving grace as well, because it was just normal. And I existed within school on my own anyway. It's not like I went to school with my dad, so it was that kind of respite from family life anyway. You get to go somewhere you go during the day. I think kind of the gentle encouragement of do the things that you would do anyway. If you really don't feel like it, then it's a-okay. But I think just creating that we still sat down to dinner, we still had breakfast together. It's amazing how comforting normality is, mostly because it does give you even just a mental break from everything you're feeling. And I think Mum was just super good at just saying, and like I still went to my dancing, and I had a drama club as well outside of school, and I went when I felt like it, but actually just in a way carrying on. It's the hardest thing to do, it really, really is, but it does give you it just gives you something to concentrate on. And I think especially as a 15-year-old, that was super important, because I couldn't just sit at home kind of feeling sad. I kind of knew I had to, I don't know, do something with it in a way, which I now know because it's been 13 years since Dad died. But it is weird how it's not even the mundane things, but like you say, just normal everyday activities that you go through emotions of being like, why am I doing this? But also, I'm glad I've got something to do, whatever it is. I've got something to do, and I can just focus on that for 5 minutes, and that will just give me a chance to just breathe, I guess, and sort of check in with yourself. But yeah, it's kind of amazing how comforting normality is. Really. Yeah.
It sounds to me like you've handled it really, really well.
Thank you.
And you've got a very positive and healthy outlook about it all. Obviously it's such a impactful big life moment to have happened.
Yeah.
Do you think it's made you appreciate those little things more? Because I know you like living in the countryside, being by the coast.
Yeah, massively so. It's impacted me in more ways than I really know. And 3 weeks ago, I lost one of my best friends, and so I am kind of currently also grieving and sort of trying to hold it together. And she died very, very suddenly. She was my age, and it's a living nightmare. But the reality is, I've been here before. As hard as it is, I know that, which no one wants to hear at the time, but life does go on. The sun still sets, the sun still rises, and the days do turn, and it's a time when you want it to stop. You want to be given that pause to feel pain, and it's a very weird, privileged position to be in terms of, I wouldn't ever wish it on anyone, but I've lived with grief for 13 years, and I will carry on doing so. And losing Soph, my heart has been broken more. But like you said, I've got to, I think with what I've learnt from Dad, I've got to turn it into a positive, and things like having this conversation alone, I've got to encourage people. It's the last thing you want to do. But yesterday, it was because this weather it's been so humid, I just went and jumped in the sea after work, because there's so many things that could stop you, and you can worry about what you look like or whatever, but I went and did it anyway, and I think that's the thing. I've just always pushed myself to stop worrying, And I think especially for females, it's so hard because you're pushed so many messages about the way you should look, the way you should act, whatever. And it's just given me a kind of clarity in a sense of, it doesn't matter. Would you rather be sitting there not doing something because you're worried about, I don't know, the stretch marks on your legs? Or would you rather gone, oh yeah, on Tuesday I went and jumped in the sea and that was silly and that was fun? So it's just given me this real perspective of, I've got to go out and I've got to live, I've got to, and that's more of a service to the memories of the people I've lost, is grabbing life and going, cool, yeah, I'm going to do this. And it is hard, and some days it's not possible, but there's a lot less I worry about. I don't sweat the small stuff, and it's sort of a message I want to push. And it's hard when you're in it, especially when you're young and your best friend decides they don't want you to be your best friend anymore. That feels like your world is ending. But I just want to kind of push this idea that it's going to be okay, and loss is the worst lesson, but it is a lesson. And I think with school especially, that's what I found frustrating about it, is I had learned that lesson of, exam results are not the be all and end all. Happiness is the be all and end all, really. And so I was in this very weird position of everyone around me is worried and stressed and cramming and feeling they're not good enough. And I just sort of sat there thinking, doesn't matter if I don't get an A star, because it could all end tomorrow. And it's a weird state to be in, and it's a strange, and some people will find that mad, but yeah, I've got to kind of channel my pain into something positive. I think naturally that's a bit who I am anyway. I don't know, but I just, and I enjoy living. It sounds kind of mad, but I love because I said being outdoors, but I think I push myself harder to do so, and I'm very sort of, fine, I'm just going to go out for a walk, even if I've got no one to do it with or whatever. I will just do it because then I'm doing something, and it's not to say I'm kind of filling my days with sort of, I'm not an adrenaline junkie, but it's more just the really simple things of, I wish I'd gone and, like I said, jump in the sea or something silly like that. It's more just the going, you know what, you should just do it. Stop worrying about the spot on your forehead or whatever it is. Like, go out and go to the pub, or I don't know, go for a walk, or go and see your friends, or go to anything like that. It's just a little bit more of doing, and that's kind of what I'm trying to channeling all that, everything into my grief and my pain, because it's amazing how, or sending that text and saying, look, let's go for dinner, or whatever it is, that's what I kind of, that's the message I want to push, is that that you can still carry on, but you need to do it a little bit more and push yourself a little bit harder, and stop worrying. Easier said than done.
Your work is as a freelance social media manager, so obviously day to day you are involved in that sector a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think social media and a little bit what you're talking about now, needing to go out and jump in the sea just because you can and it's a beautiful day and why not?
Yeah.
Do you think social media is unfortunately taking people away from having that freedom of thought and deciding to just act on impulse?
I think so. I think the thing with social media is there's really good bits about it, and it's got its bad bits. I mean, it's the same for anything really. My worry is that there's so much pressure around it, and like you're saying, is I think sometimes it does stop people from just doing stuff because they either think they've got to record it, or it has to be the best version of that, or I don't know, I think there's too much planning almost, because it's trying to make it look better than it is almost. I mean, it was a lovely day yesterday, but it wasn't sort of picture perfect sunny, and I was just sort of wearing my fairly skanky swimsuit that was just, I don't know, that I found in the bottom of the drawer, and I just went in and jumped in and whatever and had a nice swim and cooled down. It was so warm. But yeah, I think that there's a trouble of, it's just the pressure. There seems to be so much pressure around it, and doing it as a job, it's hard because it becomes a bit of a chore, and actually social media is relentless, and it's always there, and it's always going, and the machine never stops, and so sometimes when I'm trying to do my own, I get a bit, really, I'm sort of, okay, cool, I haven't posted 2 days, oh god, is that a really bad thing? And I would advise clients that they need to post regularly, and I'm not doing it myself, and again, you're going through all these sort of internal monologue of all the things you should be doing, and I think this is the trouble, it's the word should that has become almost the plague of modern society, is, I should be doing this, and I should have talked about it, or I should have recorded it, or I should have taken photos, and it's just, there's too many shoulds and I think that does stop a lot of people. And when I say I went and jumped in the sea, it was, so where I live is sort of just part of the bigger harbour, and I don't know, there's lots of seaweed, and it's not crystal blue waters, it's the English Channel part of it. It's not gorgeous to look at, and it wouldn't make a good Instagram picture, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy it, and I think that's sometimes the issue, and I do get a lot of messages from people that say, because like I'll capture a little snippet of my walk if it's especially beautiful, if I'm doing something like that, and lots of people say, oh, that looks lovely, and I just say, well, go out and do it. You can also do it. All I'm doing is just walking through a field, and yes, okay, my location helps because I live in a very pretty part of the world, but anyone can go out for a walk, and I think people need to go out for more walks, and I think people do need to jump in the sea more often, or a lake or a river or whatever kind of thing. I think that there's definitely there's too many shoulds stopping people, and I think it's important to say that you should just go out and do happy things. Yeah. Positive things.
And I wanted to ask you a series of quick fire questions.
Yes.
So actually we went over your favourites book.
Yes.
So we can tick that one off. Do you have a favourite album, or can you remember the first album that you got?
Spice Girls.
Oh, yes. Which one were you?
I mixed between sporty, because I did have a lot of my brother's hand-me-downs, kind of Umbro shorts or whatever, and kind of tank tops. But then sometimes I kind of wished I was posh. I had my moments where I wanted to wear the dress a bit more. But I used to kind of, in the dining room, put the CD player on and make up dances. Just myself. Obviously.
And of course, we all did it.
Yeah, we did.
First crush?
Ooh, probably Leonardo DiCaprio and Johnny Depp. I think. Equally kind of still love them both.
And first kiss?
First kiss, ooh, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. It was down an alleyway, and it was a dare, of course it was a dare, with a boy called Jordan, I think his name was. But yeah, it was a bit kind of weird, kind of washing machine, didn't really know what we were doing. And I was like, I'm not going to be doing that again for a while. I think I was 12 when I think of my first kiss, but it wasn't an enjoyable experience at the time.
And were you a MSN or MySpace girl?
Or
neither?
I was both.
You're both.
I was both. I loved MSN choosing the cool song lyrics to go in your bio, and working out the sort of code for the special, I guess the original emojis that you could get, like the dancing man, or lol could flash pink or something. I kind of enjoyed that part. But we were never, because that was the days of dial-up internet, and I would get chucked off constantly, sort of, well, why have you spent half an hour chatting to your friends? And you're like, whoops. But no, MySpace as well, when I think I went through slightly sort of the emo phase of life, where it was all Converse and skinny jeans and cool music that probably wasn't that cool. You think you're cool at the time, you're really not. But both, gosh,
Great. And I'm asking all guests two questions to finish off with, and I would love to know, reflecting on the experiences that you had growing up and knowing what you know now, what would you advise your younger self?
Definitely have more fun. I think, again, it ties back to kind of losing Dad. I did worry a lot about things, and just have more fun, and try and, again, it's going back to the try not to sweat the small stuff, but it's super hard, especially kind of that sort of teenage years is the tricky time, and everything is so kind of emotional anyway, regardless, but I think just have some more fun, and don't worry about your body changing and all those sorts of things, and again, it's easier said than done, but it just try and enjoy things a bit more, and also sign up to do things more. I wasn't very good at kind of pushing myself that much, and I'd say like, oh no, I don't really fancy it, and I think I didn't miss out on things, but there are certain things, especially at school, that I wish I'd just got a bit more involved with, etc. But I think just have more fun, and don't worry as much. I think those are the two biggest ones.
And if you could give teenagers all over the world a gift from you to them, what would that be?
This would be kind of self-belief and confidence, because I think that's the biggest thing with the worrying. It all comes down to lack of confidence, and again, it goes back to like your body's changing. It's a hormonal time, emotional time, and I'd love to be able to give all girls a sense of confidence and self-worth, I think, because insecurities start creeping in a big way, and it can really cripple people for a long time afterwards as well. So I'd love to just be able to take all that away and just give them all the good stuff, all the good confidence, and I think females struggle with this. We must always put everybody else first, and we must kind of look after everybody else and everyone else's needs, and I think it would be nice to kind of give everyone the confidence to kind of think about themselves a bit more as well. I think that's it. We always do. It's always worrying about other people, and I think kind of I'd love to be able to give everyone that chance to just check in with themselves and say, actually no, you come first, a bit more, because I don't think we're very good at that as females. And I think it starts when you are young. I think it all kind of creeps in when you're going through that teenage time. So I'd like to give them all a big dose of confidence and a big hug. It's going to be okay.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Sarah, so much. This has been brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Women with me, Ella Sims. If you like the show and want to know more, head to becomingwomen.com or follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I'd love it if you could rate and review this podcast or get in touch, as your comments on each episode mean so much to me.